They told us sunlight was too weak to power the world. Yet in 1954, inside Bell Labs, a fragile square of silicon caught a beam of light, and a tiny motor began to spin. For a moment, it felt like magic. Newspapers shouted about a new era, but the world shrugged. Oil was cheap, coal was everywhere, and solar was mocked as a toy. What nobody saw coming was its secret journey into space, keeping satellites alive. Today, that same toy fuels homes and hospitals. The surprise? Every panel carries the echo of that first spark. Imagine waking up in a world where electricity is a luxury. It's the 1950s. Your home is lit by dim bulbs, powered by coal plants miles away. The air smells of smoke. The streets are coated in soot, and every factory bellows black clouds into the sky. Oil is cheap, coal is endless, and nobody questions it. Now, picture yourself inside Bell Labs. The room is quiet, filled with chalkboards and wires. A scientist places a fragile square of silicon under a lamp. Suddenly, a tiny motor stirs to life. The hum is faint, but it feels like a miracle. For the first time, sunlight has been captured, not for warmth, not for photos, but for power. Step outside that lab, and you'd hear laughter. Too weak, they'd say. Too expensive. The world was blind to what had just happened. Yet in that moment, you were standing at the birth of a revolution. A spark so small it could barely turn a toy motor, but destined to one day power homes, schools, and even satellites orbiting Earth. That's the forgotten world solar panels came from, a world choking on smoke, unaware that the sun itself was waiting to take over. Imagine living in a world where every breath feels heavy. It's the mid-20th century. Cities are wrapped in smoke, skies stain gray, and children grow up coughing from the air they breathe. Coal plants roar day and night, spilling ash into rivers. Oil fires light the horizon, and the smell of burning fuel clings to your clothes. Inside homes, electricity is fragile. Blackouts are common. Families huddle around candles, praying the power returns before food spoils. Hospitals struggle when the grid collapses. Survival depends on machines fed by oil and coal, and when they stop, life itself hangs in the balance. The truth is brutal. Progress was poisoning the planet. Forests were cut down, rivers turned toxic, and the very air became a silent killer. People didn't see it as strange. They thought it was normal. But normal meant danger. Normal meant living one accident away from disaster. This was the dark world solar panels were born into. A world where survival meant trusting dirty fuels, where every light bulb carried a hidden cost. And in that darkness, the idea of capturing pure sunlight wasn't just science. It was a lifeline waiting to be discovered. The idea of solar power didn't begin with giant panels on rooftops. It started with a dream inside Bell Labs in 1954. Scientists were searching for a way to turn sunlight into electricity, something no one believed was possible. Picture the scene, a quiet lab filled with wires, chalkboards, and the smell of hot metal. Gerald Pearson, Darrell Chapin, and Calvin Fuller worked side by side, experimenting with silicon. They weren't chasing fame. They were chasing survival. The world was drowning in smoke from coal and oil, and they wanted a cleaner answer. One afternoon, they placed a thin slice of silicon under a lamp. The moment light touched it, electrons moved, and a small motor began to spin. It was fragile, imperfect, but alive. For the first time, sunlight had been captured as usable power. Newspapers called it the dawn of a new era. Yet outside the lab, people laughed. Too expensive, too weak, too strange. But the scientists knew they had lit a spark that could outlast oil and coal. That forgotten experiment, dismissed as a gimmick, was the birth of the solar panel. A tiny invention that would one day change the way humanity powers its future. Before solar panels, the world was chained to smoke and fire. Cities coughed under cold dust. Families feared blackouts, and survival meant burning fuel that poisoned the air. Progress carried a hidden cost. Every light bulb came with a shadow. Then came the turning point. That fragile slice of silicon, once mocked as a toy, proved sunlight could be captured and stored. Satellites soared because of it. Homes lit up without smoke. Hospitals ran without fear of outages. The invention flipped the story, from choking on fumes to breathing clean air powered by the sun itself. Here's something most people don't know. The very first solar panels weren't used on houses at all. They were launched into space. In the 1950s and 60s, fragile panels kept satellites alive, orbiting Earth in silence. Without them, early communication systems would have failed. And here's the disturbing part. Even today, more sunlight hits Earth in 1 hour than all humanity uses in a year. Yet we still burn coal and oil for most of our power. The shocking truth? We've had the answer above our heads all along, but ignored it for decades. Strange, isn't it? For centuries, humanity worshipped the sun as a god. Yet when science finally captured its power, we laughed and turned away. We chose the dark smoke of coal, the dangerous fires of oil, the hidden poisons that filled our rivers and lungs. Solar panels were forgotten, dismissed, buried under the weight of cheap fuel. But here's the irony. The same panels once mocked as weak now sit silently on rooftops, turning sunlight into survival. They power hospitals where lives depend on steady light. They fuel schools where children learn without the hum of generators. They keep satellites alive, whispering signals across the globe. And yet, every time you flick a switch, you rarely think of them. You don't see the hidden history, the dangerous world they replaced, the forgotten struggle that gave birth to clean power. You just see light. The twist is this. The object you use daily, the panel that hums quietly above your head, is not just technology. It is a rebellion against darkness. A reminder that the future was always shining, waiting hidden in plain sight. And the most surprising part? The answer was never far. It was burning above us all along,